Over the last 25 years, I've been behind the chair, in the classroom, in front of the camera, on the stage, on set styling some of your favorite A-listers, and opening doors as the first Black woman spokesperson for a few prestige hair care brands. During this time, I've met some incredible hairstylists that are continuing to elevate the beauty industry, and I want to share their stories. Join me for this Pro to Pro convo on Behind the Beauty.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Beauty. I'm your girl, Tippi Shorter, and today you are joining me to learn all about an amazing hairstylist that you have seen his work on television, red carpets, editorial, magazine covers. I know that you have seen his work and loved it just as much as I have seen his work and love it. And if you are a frequent visitor of Sally's, you have also seen his hair products, which I bought, I tried, I love. And so if you haven't, you should try because I know that you will love. Who do I have with me? Let's give it up for Vernon François. Exactly. Hello.
I was like, okay, who is that? Is that me? Okay.
I know.
Okay.
And welcome to Behind the Beauty. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I often, it's funny that you took me out of the room because if you had used on my face, when people start to read down your credential list, I'm sure, as you know, you're like, oh yeah, I did. Oh, and then you get so in the rhythm of listening, you check out that it's you they're responding to talking
Right.
about, and then it's like, welcome. You're like, oh yes, hi.
Yeah, that's it. Right.
And so,
my yeah. No, it's just like my response to that is always like, I want to meet that person. Who's that? Who is that person?
yeah, who is
You're
that?
like, oh yeah.
I don't live in that space, as an artist, we don't live in what we've achieved. I think we're always on
Yeah.
a mission to do and be better at whatever we're being of service to. So I don't
Yes.
sit here each day going, oh, MG, look what I've done and blah, 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 blah. Although I will say, though, I have been trying to learn to appreciate and value all the things I have been doing of late because
Yeah.
I think it brings affirmation in a way that can be cleansing for you
Absolutely.
in times when you're in self-doubt. And so I have to find a medium between that, which I've not done yet, but it's still a little bit overwhelming always listening to all the things. So thank you. And I'm happy to be here.
Yay, thank you so much. I want to add to that point, exactly that, celebrating the wins or
Yeah.
small accomplishments. So maybe small for us because we are in a constant phase of growth and excelling and being the best and doing the best. But you have to realize that a lot of things that you've accomplished, myself too, a lot of people want to do and put on their resume, right? And I think a lot of times we're so in the middle of it that we don't actually see it as an accomplishment. And so as a result, we don't celebrate it. So you're absolutely right with that. So let's jump right in. Obviously, you've got this beautiful accent. Let us know where you are from and when you when did you move to the States?
I mean, is it only beautiful because I'm in a different country? 'Cause
Probably.
I was never told when I was younger that my accent was beautiful. I was actually
Well, that's
quite the
because you
opposite.
sounded like everyone around you.
Well, this
Probably.
it's interesting. Well, yes and well, no, I didn't sound like everyone because I was born in North England, so I'm from the UK. Hey, and I was born in Huddersfield, which is really the kind of north. It's very north. In the middle of nowhere, sheeps and hills and cows. Very little inclusion as far as culture is there. There are pockets that do have an Indian community, a Black community, but they're very segregated and they don't really intermix. And so we moved to Leeds and Manchester, which are the cities of the north, which are a little bit more diverse and more sort of influenced by all different cultures, especially actually the Muslim culture. And I was raised there until I was about, in my head, I keep thinking it was longer than what it actually was. But I was raised in North England until I was about 12, 11, and then came down to the capital of the UK, which is London, which most of you will know. And the rest was history in terms of me exploring my identity and what it is that I wanted to figure out in my life. And I was raised in a Rastafarian household. My mum is Jamaican, and my dad is Grenadian. Both were born in their respective islands and then came over. My mum wasn't, I think she still claims to be a doctor, a nurse, and then she did like degrees in chemistry and did her master's as a teacher.
Wow.
And then my dad is a trick of all trades, put it that way,
Mhm.
and he's a survivor. And the rest is history. I kind of use that cultural upbringing as a base, a foundation to build my morals on in terms of how I utilize my compass as a human. But I removed myself from that particular ideas of existing and sort of um, grounded my feet in a space where I felt listened and a tribe in terms of my identity and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful, and love that your parents, both from their respective countries, came together and
Hmm.
decided to not immediately go right into. It sounds like the city. They still wanted,
Yeah.
a different kind of life, which that's beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
there's
to
a
raise them
reason.
in that way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of places in the UK in particular when people do come from other countries, they don't go to the city straight away. I think there's a
Mhm.
calling for them there's a need elsewhere.
Right.
And without going into too many details, because I don't know the specifics, but the impact that culture has in a place that is in need of culture is quite significant in terms of the survival and the economics of the growth of the real estate that
Yeah.
these immigrants are coming into, and we thrive better together than segregated. And
Right.
so I think my mum brought a lot of cultural influence, being her heritage and then what she was doing as a nurse. There are just people of all ethnicities that need operating on, but respond differently according to your genetics.
Yeah.
So there's just
Yeah.
a lot of things that are not often spoken to, but actually, the more of a melting pot we are culturally, the better we can be of service.
So tell me, what was the point for you? Because you said you were born there and then you were raised in the
Mhm.
capital. So, what was the point for you where the beauty industry became introduced to you?
Um, I don't know how. Well, it depends on how you define the beauty industry versus beauty. Because sorry,
I
go
think of
ahead.
it all the same. I think of it all the same, right? Because, well, let me just say this. Maybe I don't think of it all the same because beauty. Well, now that I'm walking it back a bit because I'm just thinking about like as a kid, I was interested in making my dolls over. It was like things that I love to do. I would purposely like
Mm,
dirty their hair just so I could wash their hair and like have an
mm,
excuse to use the shampoo and conditioner and in the house.
mm.
But I wasn't introduced to the beauty industry for a decade or two later. So what was it that introduced you initially to beauty, the beauty
Yeah,
space?
even thinking about it as the question was asked, my understanding of beauty when I was younger is completely uh different to what I now know beauty to be. But
Mm-hmm.
my foundation of beauty is still the same in terms of my grounding beliefs of what makes you beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about beauty, instantly a picture of my grandma came to my head, and this is one picture that I see that my grandma, my mom, and myself we've taken pictures at different points in our life, but it's all in the same angle, in the same frame, and we all look identical. And
Mm,
my grandma was very glamorous. She still is, bless her.
yeah.
And I remember her always she would never leave the house without putting herself together, whatever that may be, even if she was going to the laundrette, there was
Yeah.
always a weave attached to the hair texture that was never the same, but she would still
Right.
attach it. And she would just always present herself in a way where she was self-care, self-love. And I remember that being beautiful, just to witness the sort of transition that she would go through to make sure that when she's looked at from others, that they see that she's aware of who she is.
Hmm.
And that's been my sort of, I guess it's also one of the first times me actually speaking about it actually. I guess that was one of my first times me being able to see something being beautiful. And every time I look at that picture of her, I think, wow, she's so beautiful. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. And then I guess as I started to explore my younger teen, hair never came to me as beauty. I never looked at that as being beautiful. It was always something that was an essential need and an urgency to make you feel beautiful, not look beautiful. And they're two different things. And my transition through doing that was on a Sunday afternoons, was putting chicken and rice and peas on the stove, and then you get your hair braided. And it was torture. It was not a good experience, you know. I will leave that at that. And so I remember I'd be wanting to feel less pain, to have this amazing braids in my hair. Why did I have to go through so much discomfort? And my sort of transition around that was like, well, what can I do to make this experience more pleasant? And so I went on this request and started teaching myself how to lock, twist, and braid, from the fringing on the rug, on the carpet, the tassels on the window door frame. And I went through that experience to find out how I could be more accessible with making people feel beautiful through an experience that was literally provided by self-care and wanting to be TLC, tender love and care. And that's how I started to find beauty in that relationship.
Well, that's really interesting. I find, because when I do talk to people, a lot of people find that they are passionate about it, they think about it, and they want to get out and create it. And it's really interesting to hear that your interest in it was essentially out of a need of comfort and a need of, because this is the result that you go through to make you feel beautiful, but it was an uncomfortable process to get there. And so the fact that your process and discovery was a way to introduce comfort through beauty, I thought is super interesting. I feel like that's a whole point of view I don't think I've heard before. So thank you for sharing that.
That's exactly. I come from the space of ow into wow.
Love that.
That's the space that I'm trying to consistently help people recognize and realize that it doesn't have to be this trauma or traumatic or anxiety ideas don't have to exist. And I think that stems a lot from childhood and how your parents responded to you, how the language of others use about you to you, how people write to you about you, all sort of sit in your soul, and you carry that around with you for your life. And those have been the ideas of what we've been told is beauty. And as you can see, I'm naturally ginger and redheaded, and without my scarf and hat on, which I've always wanted since I was a young kid, actually. I'm one of 5 boys on my mum's side, and I'm one of 3 with ginger hair. And my oldest brother is dark skinned with really dark hair, really, really dark, beautiful, like blue black. And then my younger brother is like the chocolate brown black, which is what most people think black people look like. And then there was just me and my 2 other brothers next to me with just ginger with red hair, which was really weird. And it's
the mailman. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. There's been many conversations. It was like my grandma was unfiltered about what they thought this may have been and who it may have been. But here's a picture, and I can send it to you. But here's a picture.
Oh wow! Look at that.
And that was before my younger brother.
Which one are you?
I'm the one in the red top.
Okay.
And so this was before my youngest brother was born. There was 4 of us here.
Oh,
and you
wow.
can see behind me my older brother, look how dark he is.
Yeah.
And then us 3 came out all red and ginger.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is beautiful.
And so that was how I looked as a kid. And we didn't know we were different until we walked out the house. And then the world saw us, and they had an opinion about us. They responded really interesting and awkward and really poorly towards me and my brothers. And that was when I started to realize that I may not be best fit in most of my environments that I was walking into. And then that's when I started almost crippling and trying to figure out how and why. And then when I found hair, that became my survival mode, my passion, my life, my joy, my comfort, my everything. Without that, I don't think I would be the person who I am today. They were giving me a brush, a round brush with bristles on it that weren't chewed up or burnt. It had all the bristles on them. There was a vent brush. There was a bristle brush. There was